China is stepping up its military activity around Taiwan as tensions rise following the visit of U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Beijing is preparing its biggest show of force around Taiwan in decades. The government in Taipei says it scrambled jets to warn off Chinese aircraft that entered its air defense zone. And a number of Taiwanese ministry websites have come under cyber attack. Pelosi left Taiwan pledging Washington's ironclad commitment to defending democracy.
The People's Liberation Army released these images of China launching its biggest show of force against Taiwan in decades. Navy and Air Force drills, indicated in blue, have encircled the self-governing island that China claims as its own. The drills included what Beijing called precision missile strikes in the Taiwan Strait. This new escalation comes as Beijing hits back for US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taipei. Pelosi reaffirmed US commitment to defending Taiwan's democracy, as the island's government scrambled jets to ward off Chinese aircraft encroaching on their airspace.
Our government is even more resolute to safeguard the sovereignty and territorial integrity of our nation. In light of the current situation, our government will not only actively strengthen its self-defense capabilities, but will also maintain close ties with like-minded countries like the United States.
The issue has dominated a meeting of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations in Cambodia's capital, Phnom Penh, with China and the United States joining the summit. In his opening remarks, China's foreign minister emphasised the political and security ties between China and ASEAN countries.
We have guarded the peace. Facing the turbulence of the national security, the two sides have strengthened strategic communication, jointly tackled the challenges of various spillover effects, and jointly maintained the uneasily achieved stability in the region.
ASEAN is positioning itself as a negotiator. It's called for all sides to de-escalate, warning a miscalculation could lead to open conflict.
Let's take a closer look at all of this with DW's Jun Yan. Jun, what is the latest on military maneuvers around Taiwan right now?
Well, one thing is for sure, China is holding its largest ever military exercise around Taiwan. And the Eastern Theater Command of the People's Liberation Army said long-range armed live-fire precision missile strikes were carried out on the selected targets in the eastern area of the Taiwan Strait. The goal is to test the precision strike and the area deny capabilities. And according to the Chinese military, all missiles accurately hit their targets. And most importantly, the PLA claimed that the entire live-fire training mission has been successfully completed, and they are lifting the relevant sea and airspace control right now. On the other hand, Taiwanese Defense Ministry, just we have heard before, said its force were on the alert and monitoring the situation while seeking to avoid escalating tensions.
Now, it's worth mentioning that it's not uncommon for China to hold military drills in the Taiwan Strait. What we're seeing now, though, appears to be something else entirely. Why exactly are these latest exercises so concerning?
Well, this is the first time that Chinese army conducted a military operation with live ammunition around the island of Taiwan, during which PLA crossed the midline of Taiwan Strait, which they, of course, don't recognize officially. And the entire exercise was completed using live ammunition, which means that this kind of drill can be converted to actual combat at any time, adding the pressure to the Taiwanese military and also its allies around the region.
In the wake of Nancy Pelosi's visit, China's also turning up the economic pressure. Beijing is Taiwan's biggest trading partner. It's already now moved to ban imports of some goods. What consequences will that have for Taiwan?
Well, maybe let's just give you a rough. Let me give you a rough side of numbers. Of the 3,200 registrations by Taiwanese companies in 58 food categories in mainland China, a total of 2,000 are currently listed as suspended imports. That is nearly 65% of the total amount of goods that Taiwan is exporting to China. And China, not only that, China has also announced a ban on the export of natural sand to Taiwan. And natural sand is generally used in production of concrete, to building the street for the asphalt. And most of the sand and gravel imported into Taiwan comes from China. So the whole impact, the whole economic impact on Taiwan, well, is already very big, and we are expecting that it's getting bigger and bigger.
Okay, DW's Junyan, thank you so much for that update.
Let's get more on this from Shelley Rigger. She's a professor of East Asian politics and joins us from Davidson, North Carolina in the United States. So welcome to DW, Professor. Let's start with the drills. If they are practiced for an invasion of Taiwan, they must be very interesting, not just to Taiwan, but to military analysts around the world.
Yeah, I'm not really sure that they're exactly rehearsal for an invasion, but definitely showing the capability of the People's Liberation Army to move into the Taiwan Strait with various kinds of weaponry and to kind of clear a battle space that presumably would have to precede an actual invasion. And of course, you know, there are many military actions that could really restrict Taiwan's freedom of action that are short of invasion as well. And this is a demonstration of those two.
Yes, this idea of restricting Taiwan's freedom of action is interesting, isn't it? Because as all these rockets and missiles are flying around, Taiwan's normal trade is therefore disrupted. Planes, boats can't get in.
Yes, right. And, you know, one of the things that Americans talk about a lot when we're discussing what might happen in the Taiwan Strait and how the U.S. might respond is, you know, we talk about blockade scenarios. But here we have a kind of blockade in effect, and it's not clear that it's entirely a blockade, but the effect of all of this activity is to make it difficult for airplanes and ships to move in this area. So in a strange sort of way, you know, we seem to be moving toward the realization of one of the things that we've speculated about for a long time. I don't think it's going to stick around for a long, but it's scary nonetheless.
Well, talking about scary, just 2 days ago, we had the UN Secretary-General saying that humanity is just one misunderstanding, one miscalculation away from nuclear annihilation. And today, we have Japan saying that 5 of those Chinese missiles landed in its economic zone. So I wonder if you could explain to us, first of all, what's an economic zone and whether this apparent miscalculation is likely to have repercussions for China.
Right. One of the things about the East Asian maritime space is that it's very crowded, right? The South China Sea is very crowded, and what we might think of as the East China Sea or the Sea of Japan, they are also very crowded. And the Taiwan Strait is not very big either. So there is a lot of overlapping territorial claims, even if we go with land borders as the basis of those claims. So countries have 12 miles from their coastline as a kind of area that they are supposed to be able to control. And then they have another couple hundred miles of exclusive economic zone. And there's just a lot of overlap. On top of that are the air defense identification zones that countries use to ensure that incoming aircraft, including and sort of typically normally commercial aircraft, are notifying the airports on the ground and the towers on the ground of their arrival. And a lot of the Chinese military activity in the Taiwan Strait is actually in Taiwan's air defense identification zone. But in the last few days, it has moved even closer to the island of Taiwan. Right. And if it's closer to the island of Taiwan, especially on the north end, then it is not that far from Okinawa and other parts of Japan's territorial waters.
Right, it's all very scary. Thank you for talking us through it. Professor Shelley Rigger from Brown University, thank you.